I'd like to call the Mentor City Council regular meeting of Tuesday, April 4th, 2017 to order. The invocation will be given by Councilman Krieger.
Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for this day. Help us to use good judgment for the business at hand and guide us in wisdom with a continuing sense of truth and fairness for the community we represent.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger?
Here.
Mr. Landig?
Here.
Mr. Marne?
Here.
Mr. Blake?
Here.
Mr. Donovan?
Here.
Mrs. Dowling?
Here.
Mr. Kirchner?
Here.
Council's in receipt of the minutes of the work session of March 21st, 2017.
Move to approve. Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
And the regular meeting of March 21st, 2017.
Move to approve. Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Just want to take a moment to welcome a guest from Troop 383 tonight. I promised I wouldn't embarrass him, but Joe Aliberti's here and he's working on a badge, so welcome, Joe. And we have a special presentation this evening for National Library Week by Gail Borovic, the Mentor Library Deputy Director. Please come forward.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gail Borovic, and I'm here on behalf of Mentor Public Library. Last month, the City of Mentor declared this coming Saturday, April 8th, to be National Play Day. Mentor Public Library is pleased to support this effort to play as a family, and will be hosting a number of fun family events at all three Mentor Public Library locations. On the heels of this event, National Library Week begins on Sunday, and I want to invite everyone here and everyone watching at home to experience their local library. We have several special programs planned for children, teens, and adults next week, if I might mention a few. Monday, April 10th, local historian Tom Matowitz and Bob Zonville, he's a World War II vet who earned a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star. He'll be discussing what life was like for veterans after they returned from World War II. Saturday, April 15th, please join us at the main library as best-selling and award-winning author Thridi Umriger reads from her newest story in her first children's book, When I Carried You in My Belly. And of course, a library person has to do show and tell. So please come join us for that author. She is a professor from Case. Saturday, April 15th, please join us at the main library as we host our annual Shred Day with express shredding from 9 to 1. Anyone can bring up to 5 boxes of documents to our secondary parking lot at the corner of Mentor Avenue and Sharon Lee for free shredding. We also will be hosting our writing and art clubs, meetings next week, computer classes, special story times, and more. And every single event on our calendar, not just next week, but every week, is free. Libraries are more than a place to go for a book, movie, or free Wi-Fi, although we have those too. Libraries are fundamental to a strong community. Moreover, libraries transform. And I brought you a little reminder. Thank you. They provide opportunities for lifelong learning and enjoyment, access to information, and a place to expand your mind and tap your imagination. Thank you for your support, this opportunity to speak, and we hope to see you at the library soon and often. For more information on anything I've mentioned this evening, you can visit us at www.mentorpl.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail.
You're welcome.
Public hearings, we have none. New legislation, ordinance number 17-0-28.
An ordinance providing for the issuance of not to exceed $700,000 of notes in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying costs of improving Heisley Road by widening, resurfacing, paving, curbing, trenching, constructing storm sewers and related drainage, traffic signalization, and installing signage and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Filipiak.
Thank you, Madam President. I will turn this over to Mr. Malinowski here shortly, but this is the first of the next 6 ordinances, which each deal with the issuance of temporary short-term financing, what we refer to as notes in anticipation of bonds. We anticipate that, and Council has engaged in discussions with the administration on this, certainly as recently as our budget discussions. We will be bonding in this calendar year, so we anticipate that the term of these notes in each case will be closer to the 6-month period instead of the traditional 12 months. Mr. Malinowski.
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. As noted in the attachment, we have a not-to-exceed amount of $7.5 million comprised of 6 separate projects, as outlined in the attachment. We anticipate selling the notes next Wednesday and paying off the old bands, which mature April 28th. That's a $4.7 million 1% interest rate note. These will likely sell for less than 1.5%, which is very close to what our earnings yield is currently. So it's pretty much a wash, and hopefully we get a good bond rating and actually turn these into bonds. If things do change the landscape 6 months from now, we would just simply roll again the bands and invest the money at basically the yield we're receiving currently. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Gentlemen,
Move to suspend. Second.
please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landing?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes. Move for passage. Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landing?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Ordinance number 17-0-28 has been approved. Ordinance number 17-0-29.
An ordinance providing for the issuance of not to exceed $1,850,000 of notes in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying costs of reconstructing Marigold Road, including improvements to related sanitary and drainage facilities, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Filipiak.
Thank you, Madam President. This is, of course, the first phase of our Headlands Road Rehabilitation Program. This essentially is our local match exclusive of grants that we have been awarded through the Ohio Public Works Commission, as well as a contribution from the Lake County Utilities Department for their sanitary work. Total project estimated cost for this phase is a little over $3 million. So this would provide first phase local funding.
Gentlemen?
Just wanted to say I'm glad to see this has started because those roads are in such bad shape down there. Glad we're getting the first street going here, and hopefully we'll get the rest going as soon as financing or money is available.
Right, and you know, we're really pleased as well to be able to move forward on this. I know we've talked about this before, but I think each time this subject comes up, it's worth mentioning again that we ask people to be patient. Our Public Works Department will do everything they can to keep those roads serviceable, but the rehabilitation of those over time could be as much as a $20 million investment, and we simply can't do that in any short period of time. We'll be looking to take advantage of every opportunity for grants or low-interest loan funding that's available out there. It's a huge project. So this is phase one, but we're
But
really
much
happy.
appreciated.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, definitely. Mr. Filipiak, approximately how old is the original? That is the original road that is there now, and it's just been patched
You would
over
know
the
that
years?
better, Janet. You would know that better.
Well, to answer your question, yes, and essentially that's the case with all of those north-south roads that we're primarily concerned with that are to the west of Corduroy. You know, we've had some people comment, I know, saying, well, no, I remember when 20 years ago when that was replaced. When we talk about an original road, we're talking about the road from the ground up in its original construction. Yes, there have been resurfacings that have occurred out there, but most of those roads originally were constructed, Dave, 50s, 60s?
I'd say in the 50s they originally were put in, and then in the 70s they were upgraded for the most part.
So, you know, it's unfortunately, it's, you know, the foundation of those roads, the base is what is insufficient, and it's with very little drainage, really none in most cases. So when we think about how much time has passed, you have to actually say that we've gotten good service out of those.
It's been served well.
Mhm.
That's for sure. Okay, thank you. Gentlemen,
Move to suspend.
Second.
please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes,
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Move for passage.
Second.
please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Ordinance number 17-0-29 has been approved. Ordinance number 17-0-30.
An ordinance providing for the issuance of not to exceed $550,000 of notes in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying costs of improving Murray Avenue by constructing storm sewers and related drainage facilities and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Filipiak.
Thank you, Madam President. This is, of course, again, this is a portion of our local match. This was also a project, Murray Avenue Storm Sewer Construction, which we were able to receive some grant funding for. This project will be completed in the first half of 2017.
Gentlemen,
Move to suspend.
Second.
please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes,
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes,
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
ordinance number 17-0-30 has been approved. Ordinance number 17-0-31.
An ordinance providing for the issuance of not to exceed $1,200,000 of notes in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying costs of installing street lighting poles, arms, and LED fixtures in the city's Old Village area and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Filipiak.
Again, council's familiar with this project. Just worth remarking that these funds ultimately will be paid back through the street lighting fund. A portion, about half of them will be paid back, and another portion will come out of some of our general revenues.
And this is phase one.
Yes.
Thank you.
Move to
Gentlemen,
suspend.
Second.
please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes,
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes. Move to approve. Second.
please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes,
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
ordinance number 17-0-31 has been approved. Ordinance number 17-0-32.
An ordinance providing for the issuance of not to exceed $700,000 of notes in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying costs of constructing an extension to Plaza Boulevard to intersect with St. Clair Avenue and connect with Tyler Boulevard via Clover Avenue and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Filipiak.
Thank you, Madam President. I think Councilman Kirchner will be happy about this because I'm going to give you an update on this project, which was otherwise in my manager's report, so it'll be that much shorter. But again, this is from the ordinance standpoint. This is the final component that will be required to complete the Plaza Road project. So this cost takes into consideration the contracts that we've already entered into, both with Norfolk and Southern and CSX. So good news on JTO is expected to be finished with their portion of our extension road construction by mid-June. CSX is actually scheduled to begin signal work mid-July, and that'll last for about 3 weeks. Norfolk Southern plans to begin their signal work immediately, and they anticipate that their work will take about 2 months. So once all those signal work is completed and live testing occurs, if everything stays on track, we expect to be able to open the road somewhere between mid-September and mid-October. So that's better news than what we've had in a while.
There you go.
Gentlemen,
Scott.
I got a funny story because I went to Toys R Us to buy my cousin's kid well, I guess another cousin, right? And a woman corners me at Toys R Us, and she knew who I was, and of course I didn't know who she was. And she says, "How long have you been in council?" I said, "Since 2000." She goes, "How long has this road been like?" I said, "My recollection about 1998." She goes, "20 years, and you guys can't get across these tracks?" I said, "We're working on it. Hopefully this year." So that's great news. I didn't lie to her.
You run into her the Christmas season at Toys R Us?
Yeah, there you go. It'll help immensely.
Move to suspend.
Congratulations.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Landig.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner.
Yes. Move to approve. Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Landig.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner.
Yes.
Ordinance number 17-0-32 has been approved. Ordinance number 17-0-33.
An ordinance providing for the issuance of not to exceed $2,500,000 of notes in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying costs of acquiring the real estate formerly known as Springbrook Gardens, including the buildings and structures thereon, fixtures thereto, and related furnishings and equipment for city park and recreational purposes, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Filipiak.
Thank you, Madam President. This, is, of course, was the original purchase of Springbrook Gardens, what we believe will likely be referred to as Springbrook Gardens Park on Heisley Road. It's worth noting that the Phase 1 development, which Council appropriated $1.8 million for, will very likely end up coming directly from General Fund and Recreation Fund revenues. So this is just the original purchase.
Move to suspend?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Move to approve?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Ordinance number 17-0-33 has been approved. Ordinance number 17-0-34.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Duramark, Inc. for the 2017 road striping program and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Filipiak.
Mr. Schwenker, please.
Bids were open on March 20th for pavement lane marking services. This annual program provides for the restriping of all major and minor routes within the city that currently have striping. 4 bids were received for this project, with base prices ranging from $218,756 to $302,595. The low bid was submitted by Duramark, Inc. The striping work will be performed during the summer months and only at night so as to minimize inconvenience to the motoring public. The paint and application methods are in accordance with ODOT specifications. Thank you.
Gentlemen.
Madam President,
Mr. Kirschner.
just a quick question for the administration. I guess this comes up almost every year, but that section between Route 2 and Tyler on 615 is virtually impossible to see any striping when it's raining or there's glare or it's actually dark. Is there any, have we come up with any technology that, that might correct that problem in striping? Reflective striping or?
There's different kinds of striping. I think what you said is the problem. It's the glare. I don't think it's not the paint, it's not the road, but just a lot of that ambient lighting there really makes it difficult. But we can certainly look at some other options that are out there.
It seems that that's the only section, though, for some reason that it's problematic, and because you've got diversion of lanes there, and it's not a straight shot, and it's very hard to see the stripes at times.
Can we use those like fluorescent chips that you put in the asphalt? They use them as lane markers a lot of times. That it's actually a little bit above the.
Oh, they're called raised pavement markers.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we have tried those in the past, but despite what the salespeople say, they don't stand up to the plows very well.
Oh.
Same as been true in the past when we've tried reflective tape applied directly to the asphalt. That hasn't held up as well either with the plows. But I know some years back we tried different thickness of the paint, and that really hasn't really shown to be that different from, in terms of its visibility. It might last a little longer, but I think what you're concerned about is, and I know what you're talking about because we all experience that too. I'll look at some more options.
I think maybe a partial answer might be doing it twice and hitting it again, mid-fall. to help
I
us
just
get
thought maybe
through.
there was some type of paint that was, luminous type paint they had out there
Right.
that would reflective paint, not striping, but some type of paint that, would, whatever.
Paint has glass beads in it, and that's what gives it the reflectivity off the headlights. But again, over time, the beads get worn out and worn down. But again, maybe hitting it a second time in September or October may
Thank you.
be
Thank you.
worth the investment.
Move to suspend.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes, move to approve.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes,
Ordinance number 17-0-34 has been approved. Ordinance number 17-0-35.
An ordinance dissolving the Greater Mentor Port Authority of the City of Mentor, Lake County, Ohio, in accordance with the provisions of Section 4582.25 of the Ohio Revised Code.
Mr. Filipiak, perhaps you could give us, you did such an excellent summary that Councilman Donovan had requested for our work session, and not to put you on the spot, but if you could possibly hit some of the high points.
Well, sure.
On that?
Right, and I think all members of this council have been very intimately involved in discussions and analysis of the benefits of the city and Lake County, essentially joining together in a sense to exercise a single jurisdiction or single source of effort with respect to those activities that are conducted by the Port Authority. I will simply say, without getting too much into the weeds here, that we've looked at this for a few years now, not just this council, but members of past councils. We've worked collectively in discussions with the current Board of County Commissioners, very productively in the past with former county commissioners. And I think in the end, we look at what county port authorities are primarily used for in Ohio today, and that's economic development activities. And of course, they do manage certain public facilities. In the case of the Lake County Port Authority, that currently includes the Lost Nation Airport. So with respect to economic development, we find ourselves working very closely with that agency now on projects that are important to this community. We have worked with them on many of the tools that they provide are tools that we do not. Essentially, opportunities in financing and the purchase and lease back of capital assets. They were very effective in working in our community on projects like the Lake Health Wellness Center. They've been involved with the series of rehabilitation to the Great Lakes Mall that occurred about 4 or 5 years ago. And of course, they are now currently the custodians of the Lost Nation Airport, as I mentioned earlier. All of the things that they're engaged in from an economic development standpoint, we feel work as a nice supplement to our own activities here in the community. So in the sense that we believe that there's a greater benefit and we're really just adding to that effort, we feel as though it's a good match. I'll also add that to the extent that they will be operating facilities like the airport that are important to us as a community, being more directly involved in those activities with a sense that our voice actually holds some sway now because we are a part of the jurisdiction that is controlled by a board that will be exercising management over those facilities. I think we'll have a greater opportunity to be a part of that discussion, to represent our community, to represent our constituents within the community that are impacted by some of those activities. And, quite frankly, there are a large number of activities that port authorities can engage in that over time, we anticipate could become more and more important, not only to Mentor, but the county's well-being as a whole. And of course, we recognize that, you know, as the success of the county goes, we are certainly, that can add to our own success and vice versa. So, you know, we've been able to work well with the Lake County Port Authority in the past, and we have every confidence that that will remain. So I think we have looked at this very closely, collectively, and timing seems to be right with it.
Thank you. Gentlemen?
Move to suspend?
I'm sorry. Madam President.
Oh.
Yes.
I want to thank everybody for all their hard work and all the great debates we had and all the concerns we had for our constituents and going through pretty much every phase of, you know, what could happen, good or bad. But I want to thank the administration and council with all the, you know, we had some debates too about this situation, and I'm excited about it, and I think it's going to be positive for everybody. And I want to thank the past commissioners and the present for, you know, the way everybody handled themselves, and I'm excited about it. Thanks for your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Landig.
Thank you. Certainly, the good of Lake County and Mentor from a greater economic development opportunities is served by joining as one body here. Locally, as the Ward 3 councilman, where the 420-acre airport, half of it, approximately half, is in Ward 3. And I've seen three different perspectives on the airport from the residents. The vast majority have noise, safety, quality of life concerns. There's a small second perspective on those that see the airport as an economic tool that they still believe is the best use of the land. And then there's a third group that look at the airport as green space, and rather than development that would generate more traffic, they prefer it left as it is. But as the city manager mentioned, I think stakeholder is the right word, and by being stakeholders at the table, even for the local aspect of the airport, we are much better served, particularly for the safety, quality of life, noise issues that have been problems in the past. So I think it's going to be a good match.
Mr. President,
Mr. Marr.
I too would like to thank the administration, especially Mr. Zampedro and Mr. Henning, for all the help in this. There's been a lot of talk over the last 5 years of taking a look at this and the reasons for joining and for not joining. Upon doing further research, which I didn't get a chance to talk to everyone in the last 2 days, there's a lot of different variables that's involved. So long story short, not only talking with our administration, I talked to Commissioner Serino, Commissioner Troy, and very proactive, looking at a good situation. And so I had a few still unanswered questions. And so I talked to an old friend of mine, Chris over there on the Lake County Port Authority. Chris Madison is the lone wolf in Farming, is the original one of the board members. And even he couldn't answer a few questions. So we got on the phone with Ray Heaton, which, by the way, Ray says hi to Mr. Zampedro and Mr. Henning, and old acquaintances. And it was a very positive and proactive conversation. Ray informed me that the reason why the laws are so murky, so to speak, or kind of loose, is that it's designed so that different communities could get together and do what they need for their own special region. So whether it's, say, Toledo, it's more of a shipping, Cleveland's more of a shipping type of region, where it could be somewhere like, say, I don't know, Mansfield. Kurt used to ride through Mansfield right on a train, so it's more of a train situation and development like that. He also informed me that very few communities that he knows in the state of Ohio are taxation. Informed me actually it was only two, one being Toledo. But he said that how our Port Authority is set up, it's set up by the commissioners, that it's driven by the commissioners, and there's basically the only thing we really have to do is dissolve ours and join theirs. And so it leaves a lot of political, I shouldn't say political, but what I mean by political, leaves a lot of political proactiveness in terms of a person like Commissioner Serino and our current group of commissioners of being very proactive for economic development. Mr. Heaton, and we got to talking, and I didn't realize that basically this is all that he does in his practice for the last 30 years. And he actually wrote the economic guidelines for the current economic guidelines for the Attorney General. So he answered a lot of questions. And in the last comment that he made to me, which made me feel a heck of a lot better, and I wanted to pass along to everybody here in the administration and the audience, that he truly feels that the Lake County Port Authority is, if not the best, one of the best that he's ever worked with in his entire 30-year career. And he thinks, based on the knowledge that he has about the city of Mentor and of all that we've accomplished, especially Mr. Zampedro and Mr. Hennig, he thinks we're in good hands. So it was a great conversation, and he looks forward to not meeting all of us. So it's like a good situation.
Thank you.
Madam President?
Mr. Kirschner.
I think Scott will remember, too, that I think when we originally, when the Port Authority of Lake County was formed, we formed our own Port Authority, and I think we formed that Port Authority for all the right reasons. And I think Bruce mentioned, you know, that the time has come. I think that any issues that we might have had in the past, or reasons why we didn't join at that time, have really gone by the wayside. I think it's time to move on, and I think the people that are in place, some that were in place today, former County Commissioner Kevin Malachek's here. He was very instrumental. Some of the other commissioners no longer there, and of course now with the new people on board, I think they're very proactive about it, and I think it's going to be a very, very good economic development tool for us as well as the county. So I'm happy to see we're all going forward.
Might as well add one other item.
Please.
I think we ought to thank all the members, past and present, of the Port Authority who have taken their time out of their lives to serve the community of Mentor.
Weren't you one of those?
Thank you, John. And
You're welcome. You're welcome, John. Thank you, John, and you're welcome.
Thank you, Janet. Now, if there's nothing else, I will move to suspend.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Landig.
Yes.
Mr. Martin.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner.
yes.
Move to approve?
Second?
Please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Landig.
Yes.
Mr. Martin.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner.
Yes.
Ordinance number 17-0-35 has been approved. Resolution number 17-R-107.
A resolution repealing resolution number 17R103, which approved the transfer of a liquor permit.
Thank you. A few meetings back, the council approved what's called a Trex permit, so that a restaurant could be opening in the city and have serve liquor. And that's an expensive method by which to operate, to have to bring in a liquor permit under a Trex application. Subsequent to the approval of council of that application, the applicant secured their own new liquor permit and no longer needed to have the Trex application completed at the state of Ohio, which saves them money. And they have indicated to us their desire to have that Trex application repealed so that they don't need to continue to follow up with it, and they can take advantage of the opportunity afforded with getting their own new liquor permit. So that's what this does. It just reverses the action you took before on the basis that it is no longer unnecessary and to the financial advantage of that applicant to have the repeal go into effect.
Move to approve.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Landig.
Yes.
Mr. Martin.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner.
Yes.
Res-
Oh, should we pass it soon? Do we need it?
It's good enough.
Okay.
That's good. Okay. Resolution number 17-R-107 has been adopted. Second readings, we have none. Third readings, we have none. Manager's report.
Thank you, Madam President, members of council. Just yesterday on Monday, the 3rd, Forest Road was closed to through traffic between Woodbridge Lane and Garden Lane in order to allow for the replacement by Lake County of about 370 feet of 8-inch sanitary sewer and 10 service laterals. Now, that work we approved as an emergency basis. We approved that so that they could get started because there's a timing issue. That sewer is about 16 feet deep and it's in the middle of the road. And in order that the county would like to be able, the county's contractor would like to be able to time this out so that they are doing work immediately in front of the school's drive approach during the period when they're closed for their one of their holiday breaks, which would be between April 13th and 17th. So the first thing that I'm requesting of council this evening is to formally approve the pavement open cut request from United Survey, Inc., which is that contractor doing the work for the repair of that sanitary sewer main and laterals on Forest Road.
Move to approve.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Oh, you did. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
sorry.
We don't need that. Please continue.
Thank you. I'll also point out that is a portion that needs to be replaced because of its condition, but I think almost the entirety of that line is actually being lined as well. So in the end, they'll get a nice project. Just a reminder that this is the first week of the city's yard waste collection program, which will run through the second full week of December. There are several special collections in the next month at the Lake County Fairgrounds. Residents may dispose of computers and related equipment on April 29th and tires on May 6th. The Police Department is sponsoring an awareness program for parents and other adults called Hidden in Plain Sight on Wednesday, April 12th at the Mentor High School Fine Arts Center. The program begins at 6 p.m. It's free to the public and it's for parents and adults only. And this is an interactive exhibit actually resembling a teenager's room that contains over 150 items which may be indicative of dangerous and risky behavior. So we encourage all parents of school-age children to show up. This week, Mentor Public Safety Dispatcher Susie Sistick is conducting the 911 for Kids program with first grade students throughout the city. The program teaches students the correct ways, times, and reasons for using 911. And there have been at least a few occasions in the past where that training has directly resulted in the saving of lives as a result of these youngsters taking advantage of that education. The week of April 9th through the April 15th is National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. We want to recognize them, all of the Mentor dispatchers for the hard work and dedication to our community that they give us every day. And we have one new business that we want to announce, Stella's Art Gallery at 8500 Station Street. And they had their grand opening last Friday, and it was very, very well attended, surprisingly well attended. In fact, it was crowded, and a great opening. A number of local artists that were showing exhibiting their art, and we think that it has a very bright future. Very nice to see. That's all.
Clerk's correspondence.
Council is in receipt of a new liquor permit application for the Proper Pig Smokehouse LLC at 9560 Diamond Center Drive.
Commission and committee reports. Council's in receipt of the meeting minutes of Municipal Planning Commission of March 2nd, 2017. Old business, gentlemen? New business. Okay, we have no persons before council this evening.
Madam President,
Yes.
I'd make a motion to move into executive session to discuss pending litigation and bargaining agreement with city forces.
Second.
Take a roll.
Yeah, we need to call the roll.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes. Move to go back into regular session?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes. Move to adjourn?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Landig?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Losing my voice. Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.